Hi, I'm Mr. Eric Tang. Today I will talk about a very important data type called list in programming. We'll cover the most essential part of it and we'll talk more about it later if we have time. Let's see one example here. Here is a program. We want to store the marks of 10 students. And here we want to output the mark of the third student. Since we have the marks of 10 students, we use 10 variables to store them. But here is one big problem. If we have 1,000 students in a school and we want to store their marks in a program for processing, should we write 1,000 variables here to store them? Of course not. That's why we have a new data type called list. In the list data type, we write a variable name. For example, mark, and then equal, and then square bracket, and then we put all the values together by separating them with a comma. Therefore, we can use list to store all related data by using a single variable name. The next question is how we can get the data in a list. For example, if I want to get the fourth number in the list here, how should I write? The answer is that I use the list variable name mark here and then put an index number inside the square bracket. The index of the first element in the list is 0. The second is 1. The third is 2. And hence the fourth here is 3. These numbers are called list index. Please also note that the list index is started from 0, and therefore, if we have 10 elements, the index of the last element is 9 instead of 10. In Python, instead of positive list index, we also have negative list index. Index -1 refers to the last element in the list, while -2 refers to the second last element. Therefore, here the index of the first element is -10. In Python, you can use both positive and negative index in a list. There's no difference if you write mark 9 or mark -1, and in fact they are referring to the same element. Now, let's see one example of retrieving data. You can see here we have 10 numbers stored in a list. This statement asks which mark of students you want to retrieve. For example, I input 5 here. Then 5 will store in the variable stu. The last print statement will output the mark of the student according to the value input by user, which is stored in stu. For example, here it will output the mark of student 5 is 45. Since the variable stu is stored as 5, and mark stu-1 means mark 4, which refers to the fifth element here, which is 45. Remember that since the list index starts with 0, hence, the index of the n element is always n-1. Let's see what happens if we don't use list to implement our program. First, we need to use 10 variables to store our data. The input is the same as before here. However, since we cannot make use of the index in the list variables to refer to an element, here we must use many if, else-if to select which variables to output. For example, if the user input 1, we will type the print command with the variable name student1 mark. Or if the user input 2, we will type the print command with the variable name student2 mark, or etc. Think about that if we have 1,000 students, we need to write 1,000 conditional branch then. Therefore, as you can see, the list variable is very convenient for storing and processing data. Let's see the other example. We want to update the value inside this list. In this program, here it will first output the original value in the list, and this line asks a user to input the student number. For example, we input 7, and 7 will then be stored in this stu variable. And here it asks what number you want to change for that student. For example, I type 22 here. Then 22 will be stored in the variable m. And this line will put the value m to the element with index stu-1. It's marked 6, which is the 7th element here. And we change these values to 22. Okay, let's see how the add and multiply operators work on the list. Just like string, we can also use the plus and multiply operator in a list. For example, now A is a list with 3 numbers. B is another list with 3 numbers. Here, C equal A plus B will give another list by putting the values of list A and the value of list B together. You can see the result of C here. A plus A plus A means to put these 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 together to form a larger list. A multiply 3 means A plus A plus A, and we'll get the same result. Good. The next things I want to talk about is called list slice. For example, we have 10 numbers in the list here. What's the meaning of mark 2:6? Let's go to the Python now. Now, I first input the list here and store it as mark. Now, I type mark 2:6. Enter. You can see it outputs another list with value 59, 98, 45, 88. The data are from elements of mark index 2 up to 5. Let's explain here again. Mark 2:6 means getting the number at index 2 up to index 5 and stop getting data at mark 6. Let's see another example. If we type :6 in the index, it means that we want to get the list element from the very beginning up to index 5. The result is from the number 83 up to 88. Another example. If we type 2: in the index, guess what is the result? It is the list data from index 2 up to the end. It's also okay to use negative index in the list slide. For example, here, -7:-3 just refers to the diagram here. It refers to the number 98, 45, 88, and 90. Please note again that we stop getting the data for mark -3. Okay, another example. Mark :-3 here means getting the content from the leftmost position up to the one with index -4. Let's see one more example. Mark 1:9:2 here means to get data from index 1 up to 8. But the index of each element is different by 2. Therefore, data with index 1, 3, 5, 7 will be retrieved. Mark 1:9:3 here means the index of each element is different from 3. Therefore, mark 1 will be retrieved, and then we add the index by 3 and mark 4 will be retrieved, and then mark 7. Since mark 10 is outside the range and hence it will stop at mark 7, the output is 74, 45, and 71. Let's see one example of using the list line. Here you see we have the marks of 10 students. And if we want to see the mark of the first 3 students, we can write mark colon 3. It means getting the marks from index 0 up to 2, and you will get the first 3 marks, which is 83, 74, and 59. If you want to get the marks of the last 3 students, you can write mark -3 colon. Because -3 means the third last student up to the end, and you will get 71, 53, and 78. One very interesting thing is that in Python, a string can be treated as a constant list. Each element of a list is just a single character. We can have some interesting applications to string. For example, we want the user to input a web address, and then we want to make sure that it must start with http:// or https://. We can write this program. The address is stored in variable addr. We can use list slice to get the first 7 or 8 letters in the string like this. If it is following the rules, it will tell the user it passed the checking, or otherwise we will output an error message of wrong input. Let's run the program and see the result. For example, I input http://www.abc.com. It output pass. Rerun again. Now I type https://www.xyz.com. It output pass again. But if I type it wrongly, like if I type www.abc.com, it then tells me it is wrong because it must start with http:// or https://. Finally, I want to say that the elements inside a list can be in different data types. For example, here you can see the first element in the list is a string, and then here are some integers, and then a string again. For example, I type A0 here, and I can get a string. And I type A1 here, and I can get an integer. And in the second examples, you can see each element in a list can also be a list itself. For example, here you can see the first element is a list, and the second element is also a list. If I type B0, I will get the first list. If I type B1, I will get the second list. But if I type B0, since it's already a list and I type bracket 1, it means to get the second element of the list in B0. Therefore, you can see the number 2 here. Now, if I type B12, it will output the third element in the second list, and the value is 500. Okay, that's all about list for you to continue. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.